Hello everybody, my name is Zoro Chaos, and today we are going to cover Witcher and Mage Lifepaths. Today we're going to cover Witchers, and then we're going to cover Mages. There's a long-ass, super long blurb for both within the core book and Tome of Chaos, but I'm not going to cover those because that's way too much yapping. So I'm just going to do say the same as I did with the Common Life Paths. I'm going to cover everything, and then we're going to get into and then the next video will be professions. So I hope you enjoy. Witchers are incredibly long-lived beings as long as they don't succumb to the dangers of their profession. The last Witchers were made 5 decades ago. 5 decades ago. During the spring, summer, and fall, Witchers travel the path, looking for people who need to be protected from monsters. In the winter, they generally reconvene at the keep where they were trained. When your character begins their travels, they are somewhere between 20 and 29. For each decade after this, choose how much risk you took on as a Witcher and roll for your decade. First, roll a danger roll for that risk level to see if something went wrong during the decade. If something did, roll in the danger table on page 245. After that, roll in the outcome roll for that decade, then on the benefits, allies, or hunt tables for details. So, if you're cautious, you find out if you get any danger at 10%, normal danger is 25%, non-neutral is 50%, and risky is 75%. Now, this usually means that you roll at least D100. This means you roll a D100 or percentile D10s, and if you roll uh, a 10, a 10 or under, you get a danger. 25 or under, danger. 50% or under, danger. 75% or high or under, danger. And then you roll everything else. So this is danger. You choose a column, then you roll a d10 for either a benefit, an ally, a hunt, or nothing. That means nothing happened for that decade. So normal has a bigger variance from 1 to 5. Non-neutral is 1 to 8. And risky is 1 to 9. So it becomes far more common if you decide to choose risky for multiple decades that you can get a benefit for 50% of the time, an ally at least 2 out of 2, 6 or 7, or a hunt 8 or 9. And nothing is rare at 10. And nothing is far more common in cautious and normal danger levels. Old Witchers. The oldest Witchers were created 317 years ago. However, due to the rigors of the job, these ancient Witchers are long dead. Your Witcher character can be between 50 and 260 years old. So you could have a lot of potential for stuff, or you could have a lot less potential for stuff. Depends on how you want to make your character. Nothing. A result of nothing means that nothing noteworthy really happened for that decade of your life. You just wandered the world slaying little monsters here and there. Benefits. A Witcher's incredibly dangerous life can earn powerful allies and other helpful benefits. When your decade roll indicates a benefit, roll on the table below to learn the details. All benefits are helpful, but some help more than others. So you get some benefits here, and they have a little blurb for Law of Surprises. Witches across the world all share one ritual from their brotherhood's first founding. The Law of Surprises can be invoked when an employer or anyone saved from a monster says some variation of, "How can I ever repay you?" The Law of Surprises states, "You will grant me whatever unexpected thing you encounter when you return home." In early days, this was probably used to capitalize on unforeseen pregnancies to get new children for Witcher schools. However, the Law of Surprises is a gamble that sometimes gives you something you weren't expecting or didn't need. Interesting enough, the Law of Surprises can be evoked by anyone. It's caught on for gamblers and those who believe in fate. Allies. Witchers don't make a lot of friends, but from time to time you'll do a job for someone or stick your neck out and be rewarded for it. Witchers may not see their friends and allies very often since they travel, but they can be very useful to get you out of a tough spot. Sadly, even with the dangers they face, Witchers outlive most friends. So I know I'm doing this a little different from the previous video where I'm doing their job and everything, but we're doing this for a purpose. So, gender, position, how you met, if they died, friends forever, any living friend you've known for more than 8 decades, either elder folk or a mage. How close are you? Acquaintance, friends, bound by bond. Are they alive? In the life of a Witcher, friends can be very dear, but unfortunately the world often strips them away. Whenever you make a friend, you must roll a percentile roll. If you roll a 31 to 100%, your friend is still alive. If you roll between 1 and 30%, your friend is dead. Roll 1d10 to see how many decades later they died. You could also roll on how did they die to see how they died. Alright, and then we go to hunt. The main activity that fills a Witcher's life is the hunting of monsters. Witches can hunt hundreds of monsters throughout their lives, but some hunts stand out from the rest. A good Witcher learns from these hunts. For every hunt result, roll below to see if its details. Choose a monster within the prey subcategory you rolled. You learned all about that monster and gain a +2 to any related Witcher training checks about it. So, the prey. Spectre, Cursed One, Hybrid, Insectoid, Elementa, Relic, Ogroid, Draconid, Necrophage, and Vampire. Where was it? Was there a twist? What was the twist? How did it end? Exciting hunts. During the winter, Witchers tend to live at their keep, preparing for the spring, healing their wounds and socializing with the only other people who might understand them. Other Witchers. Like any group of people who share the same job, conversation between Witchers usually comes back to hunting monsters, and a favorite pastime is to compare hunts and share stories of particularly inciting endeavors. So, danger. This is the danger table. The enemies table. So, what the enemy is, what their profession is, what the cause is, what their power is, what the escalation is. Events. Wounds. Enemy mortality. Just as in case of friends, a Witcher also rolls to see whether their enemy has survived the years. Roll percentiles. On a 1 to 30, your enemy died at some point. Roll 1d10 to see how many decades it took, and then roll the table below to see what happened. How they die, casualty of war, you killed them, monster attack peacefully. Witcher's neutrality. There's no universal Witcher code, but all Witchers prefer to remain neutral. Thus, a Witcher will often lie and tell people that involving themselves in non-monster related affairs is against their code. For centuries, Witchers have used this excuse, and it usually works. This allows Witchers to do their jobs and get out without having to worry about getting caught up in local politics. And then with that, we will go into the actual life path. The life of a Witcher is vastly different from that of any other creature on the continent. From an early age, a Witcher stops being a normal citizen, begins a life that most other people could only dream up in their wildest nightmares. A prospective Witcher's training is rigorous. The trials to join the ranks of the fully fledged Witchers are harsh and unforgiving. Even after this, a Witcher can expect decades, if not centuries, of traveling the roads of the continent alone, putting themselves in danger every day for measly pay and less respect than the local rat catcher. A Witcher never leads an ordinary life. Schools of the Witchers. In the heyday of Witchers, there were many separate schools, which all mutated new Witchers and taught them the necessary skills to hunt monsters and lift curses. While it's generally agreed that there is a core set of skills required to be a Witcher, each school taught its students differently and focused on different aspects of Witcher training. Thus, Witchers from different schools often act differently and go about their jobs in similar but varied ways. Memories of the past. Witcher I knew couldn't really remember much about his past. Too young to really form a lot of memories when they took him to Caer Seren. Told me the memory he did have made the mutations easier. Poor bastard clung to a memory of his pa taking him on a horse for a ride in the fields. Don't know why he chose that one. Probably the only normal memory he had. So, when did you become a Witcher? Infancy, early childhood, or late childhood? What school did you train in? Wolf, Griffin, Cat, Viper, and Bear? How did early training go? You roll a d10. You get a malice or a positive thing. The Gauntlet and the Pendulum. Speed, agility, and physical endurance are widely considered the most important physical skills for a Witcher. To train all three at once, most Witcher schools employ two testing courses. Hanging, metal-studded log called the Pendulum, which must be simultaneously dodged and attacked while it's swinging, and the Gauntlet, a long, winding path littered with traps, pits, and snares that trainees must run nearly every day. Many students die on these physical challenges before even reaching the mutations. The Trials of the Witcher. When a trainee's body has been prepared with grueling physical training and subtly mutagenic mushroom broths, they undertake the excruciating trials of a Witcher. The first trial, the Trial of the Grasses, is designed to break down the trainee's body and rebuild it with superior reflexes and cat-like eyes. The second trial, the Trial of Dreams, gives the trainee night vision among other benefits, but also sterilizes them. The last trial, the Trial of the Mountains, was more of an exam to verify whether the trainee remembered anything from the previous trials. So, how did your trials go? Some malices, another malice, no mods, or additional positives. What is your most important event? You roll a d10, and you get one of these events. Your surprise child. If you want, you can dig further into the events after you got your surprise child, For boys, roll a d10. On anything but a 1 to 3, they died during the trials. If they survived, you could even roll a few times on the Witcher Lifepaths tables to see how they turned out. For girls, they could have stayed with your keep to tend to chores, but it's more likely that you had to give them to the next family you found. Witchers don't usually make good parents. Though, if you have a table that allows girls to become witchers, you could also see if they survived the trials and became a witcher. That's up to your table, though. Where are you now? So 1 to 10, you get one of these 5 options. And that is it for Witchers. Now for the Mage Life Path, which is going to take a little longer. But don't worry. It will be fine. The life of a mage is long and often filled with the kinds of opportunities and dangers that would never even occur to the average craftsman or merchant. Training in the school of magic can be grueling and oppressive, cutthroat and duplicitous, or raucous and chaotic. The forces of chaos swirl around sorcerers and sorceresses almost constantly. The drive to expend one's power can lead to terrible losses and triumphant victories. And once a mage leaves the hallowed halls of their alma mater, they're sent into a world that will likely come to revere and hate them in equal measure. For most mages, every movement is calculated, every word is weighed, and every risk is assessed. To replicate this life of difficulties, when creating a mage character, you could roll on this mage life path rather than rolling on the standard life path in the core rulebook. This is why I'm going to cover it today, because this is optional, but it has a lot of really neat things. So, where you were born. So, any of the countries, or elder folk. An elven, gnomish, Ron, or werebub mage can choose to have been born in the Elderland of Dolbothana or Mountain Conclave. So, again, the only 2 races in this game that can't be mages are halflings and dwarves, unfortunately. So if you want to play as a dwarf with magic, sorry to say you can't. You can have something else, though, which I'll cover in a future video. Alright. Who was your family? Family size, personality, status. Roll 3d10, find out what they were. How did you discover your magic? Roll 1d10, find out what you got. How did people react to your magic? 1d6. The North, Elderlands, and Nilfgaard. Attendance of the Imperial Magic Academy. For the purposes of this life path, attendance to Gwysen Hall is the same as attendance to the Imperial Magic Academy. Far from home. The guidelines of what school your character attended are just that, guidelines. A mage born in Nilfgaard may have been spirited away to Artuza or Banard when their talent was discovered, and it's equally likely that a magically gifted child in the Northern Realms may have been rounded up and sent to Gwysen Hall when their village was raided during one of the Northern Wars. Lore-wise, the only hard guideline is the strictly gendered nature of mages in the Northern Realms. That being said, if you want to break that rule, you're free to. There could be special situations that led to a male mage being trained in Aratuza or a female mage being trained in Blinard. This is the case for Bronwyn Deadeye, who was assigned male at birth and attended the Banard Academy, then transitioned afterward using magic and alchemy. And this is one of the best lore bits of the whole game because Bronwyn Deadeye is so fucking cool. I love her. She's cool. She made magic. She made a lot of spells. She's also cool. She is Skelliger. She likes being a pirate. She's awesome. What school did you attend? The North? Aretusa, if you're a woman. If you're a man, Bernard, Skelliger. Same. Nilfgaard, Gwyson Hall, or the Imperial Mage Academy for both. Minor Academia for elder races. Minor Academia represents the many unaffiliated mages across this continent who take gifted children as apprentices. Oftentimes, these mentors are not officially recognized by the Conclave of Mages. Generally, in the Elderlands, elder folk do not attend an official school and instead train with elder mages in their own society. No matter where you come from, you can choose to have your training in minor academia. So, if you're trained in Aretusa, you get this perk. If you're trained in Bernard, you get this perk. Gwyson Hall, you get this perk. And minor academia, you get this perk. They all have their own ups and downs, but they're really good depending on what kind of mage you want to play, or you just randomly add, and then you just get these. Well, one of these. Well, if you're an elder race, you get the minor academia spell. But now, life in academia. No matter what school you attended, every mage goes through roughly 20 years of magical training. During this time, they learn how to control their gift, study the science of magic, and familiarize themselves with the process of wielding chaos. For many mages, these formative years are full of exciting incidents and character building moments. For each of the 2 decades, you must roll a d10 on the column of that table that corresponds to your school. So Aretusa, this is your column. Bernard, this is your column. Gwyson Hall, this is your column. And Minor Academia, this is your column. So roll 2d10 for this column, depending on what school you're going to. Were you an apprentice? Among mages, the practice of taking an apprentice is common, though its prevalence varies based on the school of magic. Young mages are made apprentices of more experienced mages, allowing the elder mage to guide their pupil. In some cases, this goes as far as to leash the pupil to their master, binding the 2 mages' magic together so the pupil can better learn. In theory, this relationship allows an experienced or reckless mage to learn control and skill at the side of their mentor, so they will be better prepared to operate independently. In practice, reckless mages are often made apprentices to elder mages to keep an eye on them until they learn to act with respect and follow the rules. So, were you an apprentice? For Aretusa, you have a 50% chance of that being a no. Bernard, you have at least 2/3 of a chance. You have to not be. You have at least 1/3 to not be. Minor Academia, yes. There's only yes for you. I'm sorry. Mechanically, leashing a mage to a mentor binds the 2 mages magic together. When within 10 meters of each other, Both mages can use any spell, ritual, or hex collectively known. Additionally, the mentor can, without spending an action, limit the amount of stamina their apprentice can use to cast magic per turn, setting a cap that the apprentice cannot surpass. Finally, if the apprentice fumbles a spell-casting, ritual crafting, or hex weaving roll, the mentor can choose to take half of the damage the apprentice would suffer from the fumble. Once two mages are leashed, only the mentor can break this bond. Otherwise, the two mages remain bound together until one of them dies. What was your mentor like? So you roll d10, their personality, what their value was, what their clothing style was, and what their hatred was. I've had the honor of being the mentor of a few young mages in my lifetime, and I've always found the experience to be a pleasant one. That's not to say I haven't had my fair share of troublemakers leashed to me to temper their disruptive tendencies. I haven't met a student yet that I couldn't teach. This var Traharn. What was your mentor's teaching style? So you roll a d6. What was your most memorable moment with your mentor? You roll a d10. And how did you end things with their mentor? You roll a d10. Journeyman mages. It's not uncommon for mages in the north to make their way in the world as an independent journeyman. These magicians, known as Gwym Vendra, a female, roam the continent, taking odd jobs and studying under other mages they encounter until they have gathered enough knowledge and skill to return to their academy, apply to become a master or mistress. In earlier days, the chapter even provided a special scholarship fund to pay for these students' travels. Life in Nilfgaard. While mages in Nilfgaard are more controlled than they are in the north, a clever mage can still learn to subtly manipulate things to get themselves where they want to be. They could volunteer to perform specific experiments for the betterment of the empire, or closely with the aristocracy to get a foothold in politics. Life of a mage. Lifepathic example. For example, a young sorcerer has just graduated from Bernard and finished their apprenticeship. At the start of their life path, they are 23. From the years of 23 to 33, they decided to spend their time politicking. So you roll percentiles on the danger rating for politicking. They rolled a 33, which is well within the 50% danger rating of politicking. So before rolling to see if something went their way, they go to the danger table on page 26 and roll a d10 on the politicking column. The result is a 9, meaning something they did, netting them a rival. After rolling in the corresponding grudges table to flesh out their rival, they roll a d10 on the events column for politicking. They get a 2, meaning they got a benefit. Going down to the benefits table on page 29, they roll a 7 on a d10, meaning they found a portal. Could be that they went on an expedition to find this portal and beat another mage, gaining some knowledge or fame that made the other mage deeply jealous. Either way, this sums up the major events of their 20s, and now it's time to make their choice for the years 43 to 33 to 43. That was a bit of an example to help you learn how the Mage Life further life path system works. Once out of schooling and no longer leashed to another mage, it is literally up to each mage to make their way in the world. Depending on where the mage operates, this may take many different forms. They may choose to get into politics and attempt to become an advisor to a powerful noble. They may pour their focus into experimentation, ethical or otherwise, to try and discover new theories and practices, or improve old ones. or they may choose to continue their magical study, attempting to figure out the answers to long-held questions of chaos. No matter what path a mage chooses to pursue their profession, ensures there will always be a shadow of danger, even if they choose to live a cautious life. Upon graduating your magical training, you're somewhere between 20 and 29. Next, you'll have to choose how old you are when your game begins. Currently, the oldest recorded mage is Gerhard of El, who was somewhere around 491 when he died of coronary failure at the Thanid coup in 1267. Mages are generally not considered adults by other mages until they have several decades under their belt. Even mages in their 80s and 90s are considered young. Once you've decided how old you are, look at the following table. For each decade after your 20s, decide how you choose to spend the majority of that decade. First, roll a danger roll and consult the appropriate column. If you rolled the number presented or lower, something went wrong. Immediately go to the danger table and roll in the appropriate column to determine what happened. Regardless of whether you roll for danger, then roll the events section of the first table to see what went right, then roll in the corresponding event table. Follow this process once for each decade after 20. So, per decade, you have politicking, experimentation, and magical study. They're varying danger levels. 20%. So you roll a percentile, which means if you get a 20 or lower, you get a danger. 50 or lower, danger. 70 or lower, danger. 50 or lower, danger. Then it's the same as the Witcher table. Cautious doesn't get you, is more likely to give you nothing. Politicking, more likely to give you something. Experimentation, more likely to give you something. And you don't get any nothing. No nothing at all. Magical study, you have some risk of nothing, but a lot of something. So danger. These are the danger tables for either being cautious, politicking, experimentation, or study. So you get roll a d10, and these are some of the things you get. Grudges. So you roll a d10 for each one of these columns, and for whatever grudge you got, or whoever became your enemy. The cause, escalation in power. Benefit. These are the benefits. Allies. These are your allies. You roll a d10 for their profession, how you met them, how close you are to them, and what they value. Knowledge. You gain some knowledge. And I believe, yes. So that is everything for Mages and Witchers. I hope you enjoyed your stay. My name is Zoro Chaos, and I am signing out. Next time we will cover professions. So I hope you had a good time, and we will cover professions. We will cover Core Book and then Tome Chaos, which divides druids and priests into two separate professions. So we will go over that next time. Ta-ta and cheers. Bye-bye.